Chapter 1912. Land of Chaos. The area outside the island has become an absolute restricted area. Marshal Shan used the power of the pyramid to form a special independent space, in which he was fighting with Zhang Yi and Yang Xinxin, and no one else could enter. But in the real world, the scene is just as thrilling. The commotion here caused a stir in the entire Jiangyi army, and the troop station nearby asked their superiors whether they should send troops. However, the signals of the entire Pilasang city were blocked in advance by Yang Xinxin, and they could not get any news. This is for our own good, because with the strength of ordinary soldiers and low-level mutants like us, we will become cannon fodder if we enter the battlefield. After the Great Mutation, the real decision of victory or defeat on the battlefield will always be the top mutants and super weapons. The era of cold weapons and low-end hot weapons is long past, and the number of people can no longer determine the outcome of the battlefield. At this time, in a corner of Pilasang City, a silver lightning suddenly landed, bombing out a large flat area. Marshal Shan's guard captain and Minister of Supervision Cui Zhe came here. Behind his black-framed glasses were a pair of eyes with murderous intent. Not far away, the opponent was walking slowly towards them. Liangyu has a tall and slender figure, full of feminine fitness rather than softness, like a strong and agile female leopard. In her hand she held a long sword, Long Ming, and wore golden armor. That was the chameleon system that changed the color according to the environment, making her figure difficult to distinguish with the golden light rising from behind. Who are you guys? Invading Cage Country and assassinating Marshal Ken Shan. Do you know how serious the consequences will be? Cui Zhe scolded sharply. Liangyu thought of Zhang Yi's words and said calmly, "We want to kill only Ken Shan. Overthrowing such an evil dictator is a great thing for the entire KG country, isn't it? You don't have to do anything. We will take care of this dictator for you." Maybe. She paused, trying to convince the man in front of her. "You can join us." Cui Zhe's mouth curled up slowly. What nonsense. You despicable invaders. Do you think you are righteous? I can tell you clearly that it is the most absurd thing for you to decide the affairs of entering the country without authorization. Don't use high-sounding excuses to cover up your despicable behavior. As he spoke, he slowly took off his glasses. At this moment, his face looked like a ferocious beast. Liangyu knew that her persuasion had failed, and she was indeed not a good orator. However, she remembered something Zhang Yi had said to her before. Most people do not have their own opinions. They are used to blindly following whoever has higher authority, louder voice, or tougher attitude. But when this person's voice is suppressed and a voice higher than that appears, people will knock him down without hesitation and step on him with 10,000 feet, so that he will never be able to stand up again. There is no point in convincing Choi Take. Only when we prove that we can defeat Ken Sane will these people truly admit defeat. Then let's fight. Liangyu slowly raised the long sword in her hand, and under her feet, a golden energy began to rotate in a spiral. It was the qi belonging to the martial arts grandmaster that emerged from her snow mountain qi sea and the acupoints all over her body. In this world, he is the only grandmaster-level descendant of ancient martial arts and a top expert who masters internal strength. Cui Zhe said coldly, "I will kill you first, and then kill all the invaders. I must make you understand that KG country is not a place where you guys can come and go as you please." As soon as he finished speaking, he threw the black-framed glasses in his hand towards Liangyu. A strong electric current wrapped around the glasses, and its power was comparable to that of a heavy cruise missile. Liangyu spun the dragon-ringing long sword in his hand and slashed it diagonally, trying to dissolve the attack. But at the moment when the long sword was swung out, she suddenly felt that the sword in her hand was out of control. There was a powerful force applied to her knife, causing it to be about to slip out of her hand. At this moment, his action was delayed, and the glasses carrying a strong electric current directly came in front of Liangyu. She didn't have time to hesitate, and quickly used her left hand to form an air wall in front of her. Boom! The moment the black-framed glasses hit the air wall, the surging thunder immediately bloomed a huge and gorgeous lightning flower on the air wall. The power was so strong that Liang Yu had to choose to fly backwards to relieve the force. She managed to stand firmly and glanced sideways at the knife in her hand. Long Ming fell into silence at this time, as if nothing had happened. But just now, it was clearly out of control at the critical moment. That guy has the ability to control the weapon in my hand? Liang Yu's eyes became solemn. Zhang Yi is right. This is not a child's game, but a life and death struggle. If you think the other person is a victim and are unwilling to take action, it is very likely that you will be the one who dies. Cui Zhe did not give her time to think, because when she fell, he had already taken an attacking stance and rushed towards her like lightning. A user of lightning attribute ability, his speed is unimaginable. Even Liang Yu, who is a reinforcement system, feels that his eyes can't catch his trace. However, when Cui Zhe's figure entered her surrounding, Tianyuan field, his every move could no longer escape Liang Yu's sixth senses. Cui Zhe clenched his right fist, and a thundercloud storm gathered above his fist. He punched Liang Yu hard. Liang Yu clenched Long Ming with both hands and slashed with a knife in an instant. Although she was still 300 meters away, the moment she made the move, a fierce force had already reached Cui Zhe. A fierce murderous intent instantly enveloped Cui Zhe, and he hastily punched in the direction where the energy came from. There was a loud bang, like the sound of metal hitting each other, and then I was flung away. In the first fight, neither side gained much advantage, and both sides realized that the other side was not someone to be trifled with. Cui Zhe wiped his nose with the back of his hand. The knife was drawn very quickly, and the attack was completed at a speed that I didn't even notice. In other words, there is a certain range around her body that cannot be penetrated. Well, let's disarm her first. After a simple test, Cui Zhe was too lazy to pretend. The opponent's strength made him realize that he could not relax at all. Opened his hands on both sides of his body, and lightning condensed on his body, making him look like a lightning-filled humanoid. He suddenly exerted force with both hands, and Liang Yu, who was still holding a knife ready to fight in the distance, suddenly felt that his body was becoming out of control. The knife in her hand shook violently, and even the armor on her body made a crackling sound. Warning, warning. Weapons are unable to operate normally due to strong electromagnetic force. At this time, Liang Yu finally understood what the other party's ability was. Cui Zhe, the mythological name, Lizi, is the god of thunder and plague in Kermit mythology. Ability, Electromagnetic Storm. In addition to its powerful electrical attack capabilities, it can also use electromagnetic force to affect the operation of electronic components and thus affect metal weapons. His ability was not strong enough to directly control Liang Yu's weapons and armor, but it could prevent them from functioning normally. This ability alone is terrifying enough. It is true that KG is poor and backward, but the birth of an alien does not necessarily have a connection with the strength of the country. Because of the abnormal pyramid structure of KG Kingdom, it is highly regarded by Ken Shan and has more resources than the Epsilon-level mutants of ordinary countries. Cui Zhe put his hands together, then crossed his fingers, clenched his fists, and aimed at Liang Yu like a pistol. Boom! Violent thunder surged from his body, and streams of electricity gathered towards his fists, forming a super-electromagnetic cannon with his body. Enhancement-type ability user, do you have the courage to continue fighting after removing your weapon? Cui Zhe flicked his thumbs violently, and a huge ball of lightning suddenly shot out from his fists and went straight to Liang Yu. The distance between the two people was less than a kilometer, so the attack arrived in an instant. Liang Yu's skeleton armor could no longer operate normally at this time. Although the system prompted that it was not scrapped due to the electromagnetic storm, it was at risk of freezing at any time. At that time, this set of top-level skeleton mecha made by Liu Karen will become a tomb that seals Liang Yu. In an instant, Liang Yu made her choice. She threw away the long sword in her hand, and also released the full coverage mode of the skeleton mecha. She emerged from the mecha, wearing a black combat uniform. The moment she appeared, a huge ball of thunder had already crushed over, destroying everything in the city before her eyes. The thunder was so huge that it seemed to destroy the entire city. Liang Yu straightened his body, and after gathering momentum with a very graceful punch, he fiercely punched forward. Boom! Black energy burst out from her fist, and the energy turned into a long dragon, hitting the thunder ball. Large tracts of urban debris were shattered, the surrounding areas were shaken, a large number of buildings began to collapse, and people were wailing in fear everywhere. Chui Zhe didn't care about those things and wanted to kill Liang Yu as soon as possible. Weapons are an extension of the body. Even without weapons, I am still strong. Liang Yu placed his legs firmly on the ground and pushed his right elbow forward, which was a standard Bajiquan starting posture. It has been a long time since I had such close combat with someone, let alone using fists and feet. Her most powerful boxing style is the Baji boxing. Over the past 10 years, she has practiced day and night without letting go of her fists and has already integrated these killing skills into her bones. Chui Zhe looked her up and down, summoning a large amount of lightning with his hands. Boom! In the shattered city behind him, the storm swept up a large amount of metal fragments and flew towards him. In the ruins of the city, cars, steel bars, and bridges were all circling around it. The electromagnetic storm became more and more violent, and the huge storm had already turned into a tornado that stretched from sky to earth around Chui Zhe, mixed with mud and silver thunder. Boom! The storm, which had covered an area of more than 10 kilometers, was approaching Liang Yu rapidly, wanting to wrap her up in the storm and then shred her like paper scraps thrown into a washing machine. Chui Zhe knew that Liang Yu was an expert in close combat, but with such an attack method, he couldn't do anything if he didn't give the opponent a chance to get close, right? There is no escape from the huge storm. It will keep chasing Liang Yu. Of course, Liang Yu also didn't dodge. Facing this storm flashing with silver thunder, her feet dug into the ground like nails, centered and balanced, and pulled her arms back like a longbow. Then, a punch exploded like a bullet. Boom! It was only a moment after the fist hit that an astonishing loud noise was heard, and the speed of the fist had reached several times the speed of Mach. After this punch, the black energy was like a big gun, flying out of the fist and slamming into the storm with unparalleled ferocity. There was a fierce collision between the energy and the electromagnetic storm, and one could hear the sound of city fragments being crushed and shattered. The chi spear advanced inch by inch, but was also crushed inch by the electromagnetic storm. Liang Yu followed closely behind like a cheetah and rushed into the storm. Used the chi spear to clear the way for her and remove the strangling force of the electromagnetic storm. When the rotating hurricane crushed the energy spear, she had already come to the center of the storm, less than 500 meters away from Chui Zhe. Chui Zhe's eyes widened. Is this woman crazy? He didn't expect that the other party would choose to use his flesh and blood body to confront his electromagnetic storm. This is beyond his imagination of human beings. If he was not an extraordinary person who had cultivated his physical body to the extreme, how could he dare to do such a crazy thing? If you make a mistake for even a moment, you will be caught in the electromagnetic storm. Without the support of the earth, no matter how strong you are, you will be useless and will be torn apart by the storm. But this woman didn't hesitate at all and just barged in. The safest area in a storm is the eye of the storm. Chui Zhe saw a pair of white jade hands reaching out from the storm, reaching into the eye of the storm where he was, and then tearing the storm apart as if tearing open the barrier of the dimension, and slowly walked in front of him. Liang Yu's hands are very beautiful, and they don't look like those of a master of Dongjiaquan at all. Usually, masters of Dongjiaquan have calluses on their hands, and their fists are much bigger than those of ordinary people. Because she practiced both internal and external cultivation, she had been using medicinal wine to help her practice martial arts since she was a child. Her hands were as white as jade, but her palms had a thin layer of calluses because she had been holding weapons for many years. She stepped into the eye of the storm and looked at Chui Zhe, as usual. Chui Zhe subconsciously stepped back half a step. At this moment, he looked at Liang Yu and felt that the person in front of him was not a person, but a non-existent existence. At this moment, Liang Yu entered a state of unity between man and nature. He was fearless, and his strength was fully exerted. Therefore, all her humanity, fear, panic, and anxiety will disappear. At this moment, she is a pure fighting machine. Liang Yu didn't say anything nonsense. After stabilizing his own breath, he rushed towards Chui Zhe in an instant. A series of black afterimages appeared in the air. Chui Zhe was stunned for a moment, but soon he came to his senses. Thunder surged out from his body, illuminating his entire body with an almost transparent color. Aha! When the storm begins to roll in, even the initiator of the storm cannot stop it. The storm at this moment was a gladiatorial arena for the two men. Whoever dared to turn around and leave would inevitably be attacked from behind by the other. Therefore, Chui Zhe decided to confront Liang Yu directly in close combat. The thunder turned into a huge sphere and wrapped around his body. Liang Yu's body was surrounded by a layer of black energy like smoke. The martial arts skill, cloud and smoke cover, the energy inside the body flows out from the acupuncture points all over the body, forming a close-fitting armor with both offensive and defensive capabilities. She had to use this energy as a barrier to isolate the opponent's lightning and prevent her internal organs from being burned to charcoal. Chui Zhe's thunder has the ability to restrain the enhancement-type mutants. Because of the close contact, it is inevitable that electricity will be conducted. So this time, Chui Zhe took the initiative to launch an attack and rushed towards Liang Yu. There was no expression on Liang Yu's face. She still maintained the same starting position, neutral and harmonious. Facing Chui Zhe's attack, she only took action when the opponent approached. The punch that Chui Zhe threw at his head with thunder and lightning hit him directly in the chest. The fist wrapped in thunder passed by her head, but she just walked forward indifferently, avoiding the momentum of the fist. Chui Zhe's fist missed, but hers did not. The two passed each other, their pace gradually slowed down, and Chui Zhe had already arrived several hundred meters away. He slowly stopped and looked down at his body. There was no damage to the clothes on his chest, but large amounts of blood suddenly gushed out, staining his clothes black. His hand trembled as he touched the blood on his chest. Then he turned around and asked, "What technique did you use?" Liang Yu turned around and said calmly, "Kung Fu. The person you lost to is the martial arts master of Huashu country. It's not shameful." A bleak smile appeared on Chui Zhe's face. The next moment, he violently spat out a mouthful of blood, and then his body exploded directly from the chest like a rag. If he had known who the other party was, he would never have chosen such a stupid approach as close combat. No one can beat Liang Yu in terms of skills in close combat. This is what the martial arts masters call no attack, no defense. Victory or defeat, life or death, is decided by a hair's breadth. His fist was half as strong, but that half as strong made a world of difference. Liang Yu looked at his body and sighed. She didn't want to kill anyone, but in this kind of close life-and-death fight, unless the gap in strength was too great, there was no way she would hold back. She walked over and absorbed Chui Zhe's essence that had not yet dissipated into her body. Then she sent a message to other people on the communication channel. "The battle on my side is over." Another area in the city of Pilaseng. Uncle Yu looked very familiar at this moment. He was wrapped in pitch-black armor, and the area where his eyes were was made of a one-way transparent material. That is the weapon after the demon god machine was transformed. But it's different from Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi wore a layer of skeleton mecha, but Uncle Yu directly installed the miniaturized limbs of the demon mecha on his own body. He retained his brain and torso, remodeled his bones into metal, and implanted his arms and legs into the body of the machine. At this moment, he looked like the demon god Bipratos, in a half-mecha and half-human form. Of course, for his lifelong happiness, he would never replace certain parts with machines. Although doing so might make him more courageous, the pleasure would be seriously reduced. He stood in the ruins of the city like a demon god, holding a black hammer in his right hand, his eyes glinting in all directions. The streets were burning fiercely. When the war started, the whole city became chaotic. The residents of city took this opportunity to enter the city and began to snatch the resources of the middle city and inner city. Perhaps the Tianlong people in the inner city themselves could not imagine that the first attack they suffered was not from invaders like Zhang Yi, but from their own fellow countrymen. The people from the outer city robbed the people from the middle city, and then the people from the middle city also went crazy and broke into the inner city together with the people from the outer city. They were stealing food. Rushing into their gorgeous home, they saw that they even had air conditioning and even heating to enjoy. Their eyes immediately turned red, and then they began to hack and kill mercilessly. Didn't we agree that we are all compatriots? Didn't we agree that everyone is living a difficult life? Why can't we even have enough food to eat? The first thing we do every day when we wake up is to check if our family members have frozen to death. But you can enjoy such a luxurious life. Kill, kill, kill. You all deserve to die. You are all liars. What you said about sharing weal and woe is all fake. You will exploit and oppress us. You all deserve to die. The people of the city never knew the truth. It was like the people in other cities had to worry about how to hand in their feces every day, but they still had to worry about whether Marshal Shaun could be full by eating a grain of rice every day. But when the truth is revealed, all emotions will turn into the most terrifying hatred. They had long lost all desire to live, but now they were desperate, smashing and looting food, houses, and even women. They want to grab everything. The police officers and armed forces in the city were maintaining order. The scene was too chaotic, so they opened fire without hesitation. Uncle Yu stood on the edge of Pulisang City. Behind him was Lake Wiljia, the battlefield between Zhang Yi and Yang Xinxin. But he didn't expect that these people had completely forgotten about them at this time and were caught in the internal chaos. The streets were filled with skinny, sallow-faced, crazy-looking people from the city. They stuffed food into their mouths in big mouthfuls, while some of them dragged the gorgeously dressed women from the inner city into the ruins with red eyes. Why should our wives and daughters have to trade their bodies for food and be called flower sellers? How can you enjoy everything so openly? Forgive your sins. Forgive me all. Dear viewers, thanks for staying with me. We'll try to get you more updates. Please like and subscribe and share the video with your friends. Love you all.